Good evening, everybody. So we are very excited to see.
Nasiba, wait. Whenever I stop my screen share.
Okay. Yeah, because I saw that, there is links on Facebook. Oh, okay.
Oops.
Good evening, everybody. So welcome to the English Without Borders webinar series that we are conducting every Thursday at exactly 6 p.m. And today we are very happy to welcome again Laura G. Holland. And today she will be talking about questions and questioning, classroom practice, optimal discussions, and critical thinking. And just before we get started, I would like to tell some exciting news to all of you. Please, dear English Without Border followers, now you have a great opportunity to get an e-certificate if you attend all 7 Thursday webinars starting from July 15 to August 26 and take online quiz after each webinar and at least get 2 correct answers. And the links to the quiz we will provide after the end of each webinar, after the question and answer sessions. I will post it on Zoom link as well as on Facebook, and it will be open until the next day. So it will work 24 hours. And of course, you are welcome just to watch our webinars after today's session tomorrow and fill out that quiz and also just complete the quiz and also will receive your responses. And today, as I mentioned, we are again welcoming Laura G. Holland. Hello, Laura. And we again just welcome you to our English Without Borders webinar. So Laura Holland teaches English language and teacher training courses at the University of Oregon, where she is also a faculty mentor and teaching assistant supervisor. She's the external reviewer of BNCs in Northern Peru. She has published numerous articles and co-authored the teacher training guidebook, Sharpening the Way We Teach English from Observation to Action, published by the U.S. Department of State. Her special interests include teaching oral communication skills, incorporating authentic materials into classes, online professional development, with international teachers, mentoring and supervision, and classroom observation for training and professional development purposes. Throughout the pandemic, she has delivered online training workshops and webinars for teachers around the globe. And we are very excited that Laura is doing collaboration with us. And we are looking forward to more collaboration with you, Laura. And now I'm giving the floor to you. So thank you very much. And dear audience, please put your questions to our speaker in the chat box via Zoom and on Facebook a comment box. So we'll pass them over to Laura after her presentation. Thank you very much, Laura. Now the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Nasiba. Thank you very, very much. Hello, everybody. All right. I will say good morning if you're in my part of the world, and good evening if you are in your part of the world. Except that I'm looking for share. Oh, here we go. Sorry. There we go. All right. So today, good evening to you. If you could go ahead and type in the chat, where are you from? Let's just start with that. Where in the world are you right now? Tajikistan, very good. Where else? Anybody from other places? Good evening, also Tajikistan. Anybody from somewhere else? Coming in from somewhere else? Let's see. All right. Well, so in pop culture here, I could say, what's up, Tajikistan? Good morning, good evening. Good evening to you. All right. Fantastic. Well, welcome. I'm so happy to be with you here today. That was my first question. All right, let's go on. Let's talk a little bit for a minute. I would like to just introduce and give you my rationale for why we are talking about this. So questions and questioning, right? We're teachers, so we ask a lot of questions all the time, right? All the time to our students. And there are different ways that we approach questions and questioning in our classrooms with our students, and then again with ourselves too. So in the next 60 minutes, let's explore some of the few different ways that we can work with questions and questionings together. And I hope that what you'll do is take away some new thoughts and some new ideas of things that you can try with questions and questioning. First, I have a funny little story about think, pair, share. Now I'm guessing that most of you by now have heard of think, pair, share. It's a wonderful thinking routine that has been around for quite a while. However, back when I was a much younger teacher, I thought I invented think, pair, share. Why? Because it was something I started doing in my class because I know what kind of a learner I am. And I am not a fast learner. So I have a lot of empathy for my students who need another minute to think and all this. So I started building in some time to think and then some time to talk to each other, because I realized, some students are very shy and don't want to raise their hand because maybe they've got the right answer, maybe they don't. And maybe they're feeling like, my heart is beating too hard. I won't be able to hear, I won't have the right answer. So I started thinking, let's give them some time to think, talk with each other, and then share it to the whole class. Well, then I started getting older, more experienced, going to conferences and reading and doing more research. And I started hearing about this thinking routine: think, pair, share, think, pair, share, think, pair, share, think, pair, square, share. And I thought, that sounds a lot like what I've been doing. So I started doing a little more research, and then I found Frank Lyman, 1981, from the University of Maryland, who actually is the inventor of this. But nobody knows this anymore, it seems like. So very few people talk about Frank Lyman and give him credit for Think, Pair, Share, a tool that is used around the globe for teaching. So why is it good? Why is it such an important tool? It allows our students, it's really good for everybody who just needs a moment to think, right? As teachers, we forget in our wait time, right? We ask these questions and we expect our students to be answering them as quickly as we can. They need more time to think, most of them. There are always like 4 or 5, right? 4 or 5 students who hear the question and then, oh, I got it. But what about the rest of the class, right? And so we want to make sure that we are building into our practices enough time for everybody to be able to think, okay? And then they talk with their partner. It's a little bit trickier on Zoom. On online classes, I usually leave out the pair part and just do think, share. We'll talk about that in a moment. But you can put them in breakout rooms for a couple of minutes in pairs and then have them come back. And that works also. I've done that a few times. So the pair gives the students the chance to test out their answers before they go public with them, and which can be much more embarrassing. And then the sharing, then the teacher can call on pairs to answer. So maybe if your first answer wasn't right, but your partner came up with the right answer and you were, oh, yeah, that's right. Then you can answer that way. So it just builds in a little more time to think and to process. And there is another really awesome benefit for it. Why is this important for our teaching? Every student has the chance to think and produce for every single question that we ask this way, that we pose this way. And it's an excellent thinking routine. So if we do this, it takes more time. Yes, it does. But rather than having one person or two or three people answering the question. This way, everybody produces something. And it's just an incredibly simple, effective technique that takes no extra technology. Okay, you could just do this, incorporate this. I use Think, Pair, Share in my classes every single day, many, many, many times. All right, so here's a little action time. Let's use the chat for this. Who do we learn our first languages from? Okay, who? Just think for a moment, and then you can type your answers in the chat, or you are welcome to unmute yourself and call it out. So who are, yeah, okay, Nasiba says mom, for sure, right? Who else? There's more than one answer. Family, excellent. Family, who else? Keep it coming. More than family. Who in the family? Let's get specific about family. Who? Who did we learn our first languages from? Our moms? Granny, yes. Mothers, siblings, absolutely. We learn so much from our siblings, more than our parents sometimes. Dad, parents. Hey, there we go. TV, absolutely. My youngest brother, his first word was mama, of course, but his second word was Batman. Why? Because we were all watching Batman after school every day. And so then my father's heart was broken. But it was okay, because then his third word was dad. Neighbors, absolutely. We learn from our neighbors. And everybody in the community. Great, exactly. So, and our peers, for sure. So we have all these different people, friends, family, grandmothers, grandfathers, aunts, uncles, TV, media, stories, movies, our own observations, cartoons. That's it, exactly. We do that. But then what happens? We get into classrooms, right? And suddenly we have a whole different system, right? When we were learning our first languages, we all do it really well, right? It's a pretty good system, and almost everybody learns to speak. Do we have quizzes? No. Do we have homework in our languages? No. Do we have, are we sitting in rows? No. But then we get into classrooms, and that's exactly what's happening. Suddenly we have textbooks and curriculum and tests and people sitting in rows, and it's not anything like, it doesn't share any characteristics at all with how we learned our first languages. So one of the things that I do that I think is very important is to get everybody on the first day. I ask every class this exact question. They say, who did you learn your first languages from? And they start calling it out or typing in the chat. And then it's like, that's right. But your families aren't here, right? We are the ones who are here right now. So we are all going to be the mothers and the fathers and the brothers and the sisters and the aunts and the uncles and the neighbors. And I will bring lots of media, and you will bring lots of media. And together we are going to be our learning community. And I think that this is really important. And I do this on the first day. I don't spend any time going over the syllabus on the first day. I give that to them as homework, and I say, go home and read this tonight. I spend my whole first day getting everybody to know each other and doing all kinds of fun activities that get them connected to each other, and also allow me to listen in and do a lot of formative assessment of where are they at? Where is this group of students at right now? But I find that it makes a huge difference. And Think, Pair, Share is an awesome tool for creating our language communities. Now, other questions. So today we're going to be talking about just so many different kinds of questions. So questions we can use to check in with our students, right? After this year of pandemic, how are you doing is no longer a small talk conversation, right? So especially last year, like in March and April, when our new term was starting and everybody was really freaked out, right? It's like we were terrified about the pandemic. Everything was closing down. Teachers, we had 2 weeks to figure out how to start teaching online. And for me, that was, I had never been on Zoom before, and we were all just kind of a little crazy about it. It was making us really stressed out. So, and our students even more so. Our students were suddenly, they couldn't be here. They were all over the world. Some of my students were taking class in the middle of the night because here it was 9 in the morning, but in China it was 1 in the morning. So, and that's when they were taking their classes. So some questions I might ask my students to check in and find out, how are you doing? How are you okay? Is everything okay? So I might say, on a scale of 1 to 10, where are you today? And so that was a question that I asked quite a bit. Then how about, how do you relieve stress? And I had a lot of students who said that was one of their favorite questions. And then very productive conversations. I put them into groups and we use this, how do you relieve stress? And then they all shared their topics with each other. And even just, are you doing okay? So these are all questions that we can use to check in with our students. So now I'd like you to do some action. Write a question in the chat that you might use with your students, or that you already use to check in, especially during this year of pandemic. But just what are things you say that where you check in with your students? Go ahead and put it in the chat. Or you can unmute yourself too if you have something to say out loud. Anybody have one? I know you're typing. What skills did you learn during the pandemic? That's an awesome question. In fact, I have found my students really, really love talking about what they've been doing during the pandemic, and it's been very positive to ask them. Excellent. Okay, great. Thank you. If you have more, please go ahead and put them in. Other questions that we can ask. So we can check in at the end of the class too, and do like an exit ticket, right? That's a really great practice that my students really enjoy doing. Ooh, what movies have you watched? That's a good one too. All right. So I might say to my students, okay, everybody, at the end of class, please take 3 minutes and write down one thing that you've learned today, one thing that is still confusing, and one thing that you feel really confident about that you could teach someone else tomorrow from this class. Okay, so what's something that you feel like you could be the teacher and I will sit down and you teach it? Okay, so these are some other questions that we can ask at the end of the class. Now let's have a look. How did you spend your time during the pandemic? Good. Did you miss your teacher? Of course. Excellent. Now go ahead and you can also put in some questions that you might ask at the end of the class, or some of your exit tickets. What do you do to improve your English during lockdown? That is such a great question. All of these are wonderful. Let's see, from Facebook, what do you mean by check-in? Oh, I love that. Thank you. Good question. Thank you for asking that. So when we say to check in, we mean like to find out how our students are feeling. What are they thinking or feeling? So maybe I might do a little poll and say, on a scale of 1 to 10, where are you today? How do you feel? 1 is not so good at all, and 5 is awesome. So where are you? Or 1 to 10, right? That kind of thing. And my students have been very honest. They'll go around and they'll say, I'm a 2 today. I'm a 9 today. I'm an 11 today. And so that's what we mean by checking in. It's an important practice to check in with our students. Now, of course, if you have a class of 100 students, it's a little trickier than if you have 20 or 25 students. But you can still check in with them and have them talk with each other and just find out where are they at on the 0 to 10 or 0 to 5 spectrum. Because if they're all ones, maybe I don't know, maybe I might want to do something a little different, or I might make a quick little shift if my students are having a hard time that day. Let's see. Oh, I love this question, Zinatmo. If you find $1 million, what would you do? I love this. That's a really great question for talk. We've had that question in lots of my classes, and students ask that all the time too. Or if you have all the time and all the money in the world, where would you go? What are on your bucket lists? All right, beautiful. Now, here is turning to a very different way to think about questions. Now here, let's talk for a minute about practicing questions, right? All of our textbooks show how to form questions, and I don't have an example here, but I can tell you very quickly. One thing I might work with my students rather, is, for example, questions with be. Okay, well, I might give them first, before we've even done anything or they've looked at it in the textbook, I have a discovery learning. And let me put that in the chat for a minute. Discovery learning, did I spell that right? Hold on one second, I can't see my chat perfectly. Yes, okay. So discovery learning. So maybe what I might do is say, for example, they have a sentence, a statement that says, I'm going to Tajikistan next fall. I wish. Okay. And then question. Oh wait, sorry. You are going to Tajikistan next fall. Question. Are you going to Tajikistan next fall? Statement. I'm supposed to go first in the lineup. Question. Am I supposed to go first in the lineup? Statement. They have 3 kids and 14 dogs. And do they have 3 kids? Oh, no, sorry. Wrong question. That's not B. They are parents. Are they parents? Okay. So what they do is my students go through the list and they do this on their own. And then the next 9, I have about 8 of those. And then 9 and 10 are questions where they leave out the blank. And now they just follow the pattern to create the questions. And then when we get to class the next day, they've done this for homework and they do this at home with as much time as they need to think about it. Then they come to class and then I say, what's the rule for forming questions with be? Okay, so rather than me going through and saying, you do this and you do this and you do this and you do this, rather first we give them discovery learning. We give them the chance to get in there and notice the pattern and just really get in there. And I like to say, get their hands dirty with it. Okay, so now let's say they've done all this. Now we're in class and I want to practice. Now the slide I'm showing you now is, I would not use this to teach the form initially, because this is very tricky what they have to do here. But this is a great, excellent way to practice. And it can be stressful at first because it's a little tricky and difficult, but once they get the idea, then it's really, really cool and they love it. And they can work and test each other and practice with each other. So let's have a peek and say, ask me if they are smiling. And then, what you have to do is make a question out of this. This comes from an old test. I just updated the pictures, but we used, before the internet, before AccuPlacer tests, this is a test that we used to use to test students' oral skills when we were placing them. So I would say, ask me if they are smiling. Are they smiling? Ask me if they are carrying backpacks. Are they carrying backpacks? Ask me if they are wearing the same color shirts. Are they wearing the same color shirts? Okay, so I do a few models and then I put them in pairs and I have them working on this together and then they practice. And all the slides on this one are all B questions, okay? They are all questions that go with B. Then I'll show you in a minute, I have some other slides. So they get a chance to practice this. If you have any classroom tutors, students who are in your class, they can work on it with the groups or they can just do it with each other in pairs or small groups. Excellent. All right, let's have a peek at the chat. Parvina says, are they smiling? Good, excellent, okay. We love it. So students this is exactly what they do. And now we have, Firdal says, exit ticket. Okay, this is an example of an exit ticket that you've got. What did you learn today? What questions do you have? Anything else? Great. Just a simple, if we dedicate just a couple of minutes to our exit tickets, it really helps. Are they shouting? Yes, good. So ask me if they are shouting. Are they shouting? Exactly. All right. So here are a few other examples. Then I've worked this up. I love, this is one of my favorite pictures. I love this picture so much. So here's another one, but now we start introducing, this is after we've already been working with do questions. So questions that use do as the auxiliary, like, does she have any children and grandchildren? Does she have brown eyes, right? And then I give them a chance also to add one of their own. Here's another one. This is one I used, and this was interesting because I found this one very soon after the women in Saudi Arabia were, the law changed and they were allowed to learn how to drive. And so I had put this one up. And then, when I showed this to my students, I asked them, I said, where is she from? And they're like, she's not from Saudi Arabia, that's for sure. And just, they could answer, and they had very strong opinions about this, and they actually taught me something. And we're going to talk about this in a few minutes. It's a chance for them to be the experts on things. And that's a really important point that we're going to talk about in a few minutes. Here's just another few examples of these kinds of slides. Now, here's one that I do. I love doing this with my students. You have to try this. You will love it. I don't know who these people are. This is just a picture I found online. It looks like a magazine picture. So you can put up a picture where there's just a bunch of different things to talk about, right? Which pretty much is any picture. And name every action you see them doing. For example, they're toasting the new year. Or where could they be from? Name several possibilities. Tell as many things as you can about this picture in 1 minute, and go around the room. So what I do is I give everybody like 1 whole minute, which is a really long time if nobody's saying anything. And I might give them 30 seconds depending on the level of the class. Tell them as many things as you can about this picture in 1 minute, and then we'll go around the room. But I give everybody a chance to think first. Now, when I did this the first time with this picture, I expected that we were going to spend about maybe 3, 4, 5 minutes on it. My students would not stop talking about it. They were like, no, wait, I got more. And they got into this whole huge thing about, and more than one class did this, about what's their relationship with each other. That was a question I told my students, think of a question that you can ask everybody else. And so one of the questions was, what's all their relationship? How are they related to each other? So one of my classes decided, they said, okay, these two are boyfriend and girlfriend because, the way he's got his arm around her. But then they decided that these two were brother and sister, and these two were brother and sister, but these two were maybe meeting each other for the first time. And they had it all worked out. This one picture got them thinking and talking and just blah, 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 blah. And it was really fun. And we had a blast with this picture. Yeah, there we go. Oh, Mehri, I love this. Are they happy? Good. Yeah, I love it. I'm so glad you love the Ask Me exercise. It takes some training. Don't be patient with your students because it's really confusing. It's even confusing for native speakers to like, wait, what do you mean? So give a lot of examples first. and then you'll get it. But I have loved it. It's a really effective technique. All right, let's talk now about discussions, because they come in many, many forms. I need to move everybody. So I teach a lot of oral skills classes, and you can have a lot of focus on fluency. However, if you plan your questions carefully, you can elicit and practice certain grammatical forms. So for example, what did you do over the weekend? Okay, well, we're asking them a real question we don't know the answer to, but what they're doing is they have to, and then I'll say, don't forget your past tense. Now, I'm not correcting anybody. The focus is on fluency, but I'm getting them to kind of remember. It's like, okay, this is your chance to practice the past tense, right? You said you needed more practice with your past tense, and I agree. So what did you do over the weekend? So we're getting real information at the same time as we're practicing. Or this was one of my favorite questions. Are there any silver linings to this strange year of pandemic? Describe them for your group. And oh my gosh, ask, if you have not asked this question yet, ask it. The students have come up with amazing things. One year I had a group of students who were, there were a lot of lawyers in my group. So I asked the question, what does justice look like? But I've asked that question to other non-lawyer groups too, and it's really a very interesting question and gets everybody really thinking and going. So yeah, go ahead and put any discussion questions that you have used or that you could think of into the chat. There we go. No, I agree, Parvina. That's for me too. I've been with people all over the globe. Who knew? And I also never knew that I never knew that I could teach language online. I've been doing professional development online for 10 years, but I'd never taught a single language class online until last March. Oh, well, 2 Marches ago now. Yeah. All right. So now let's move on to, there's so many different things to talk about. I hope I have enough time to talk about it all. Comprehension questions, right? We teachers do a lot of comprehension questions, and they're fine, okay? There's nothing wrong with them, but we need to remember that they do not promote critical thinking skills. So what if we try asking questions that assume comprehension, but they ask students to do some further task, like write a new ending to this story, or with your partner, write 3 great discussion questions for other groups about community service, or create a dinner party with any of the characters that we've read about this term. Why are you including them? Okay, so if you have any of those questions that you have done or that you would like to share or that you've just suddenly thought of, go ahead and put those in the chat. Yeah, emotional intelligence. It's funny, I'm actually participating in a conference tomorrow about emotional intelligence and doing this presentation with it. And all of this is a part of helping our students develop their emotional intelligence. Thank you, Siva, for talking about that. That's so important. Here we go. This is one of my favorites. My students love this. So one thing about questions that as teachers we should be doing a lot more of is asking questions that we don't know the answer to. Why? Because it's an opportunity for students to teach and to share with us, and for us to model being good listeners. So this is another one of these that I thought would go on for maybe 3-4 minutes and then they would be finished. And they were like, no, we need more time. And they're like, don't end the breakout rooms yet. The question was, are you a feather or a rock? And either one is right, but you have to explain your answer, right? Yeah, oh, good. Exactly. Giving students time to think is a really important practice. All right, let me move everybody over here. All right, 2 more questions that I've used and had so much fun. I've been using these questions for years and students love them. Asking more questions we don't know the answer to. What color are you? Okay, and the only thing is that they need to be able to, they say what color they are, but they have to explain. Or what animal are you? Please explain your answer. Okay. Now, a whole different way to approach this. So working backwards. I have a whole presentation about working backwards, but this is just one small sample, one way that we can do this. Nasiba, you're blue. Cool. I'm going to ask you in a minute to explain why you're blue. Because that could mean some different things in English, interestingly. It could mean that you're sad, or it could mean that you do like the sky, or all these different possibilities. It really opens things up. Oh, we have pink. We'll talk about that. Okay, let's do that. Let's go back for one quick second. Nasiba, why are you blue? Why is blue your color?
Because blue is conveys energy, and it's the energy of peace, the energy of like sky, and it's just the energy of happiness. So therefore, yeah, I like blue.
I love that. That's so beautiful. And you know what blue always makes me think of too? You get plenty of snow. We don't get much snow in my region here, but where I grew up, we had lots of snow. And on certain days when the sun is shining and there's like a rock, the color of the snow in the shadow is a wonderful blue. It's one of my favorite colors, like an ice blue. So beautiful. And look at all these other colors: pink, yellow, orange. Okay, too. So this is kind of interesting, right? Then you find out, somebody's black, I think. Not I love black myself. But these are great conversation starters, and students really enjoy talking about these things. So I highly encourage you to try this out with your students. Okay, now moving to working backward. So one thing that you can do is, instead of asking a question, give the answer and then have them come up with the question. So let's try a couple here. This is actually, let's see, I'm 61. What is a question that could be for that answer? Go ahead and put it in the chat. How old are you? And that's one of the few questions, I think. Good. How old are you? Can anybody think of a different question? My students and student teachers have thought of like one or two more that go with this. This one's pretty limited. I can't think of too many. But here's some examples that they came up with. Let's say you're at the meat market or the bakery, and it's a long line. In some places, here anyway, you take a ticket with your number on it to know what number you're going to go. So it's like, oh, I'm 63. What number are you? I'm 61. So that was an example my students came up with. How about let's do one. Let's do another one. Let's do this one. This is my 4th time. Yeah. Actually, that's a lie. This is an old slide. I'm 62 now. I've been doing this exercise though since I was 58, and I keep updating it. It keeps going 58, 59, 60. You should have seen my mother and my grandmother. They were very young also. Thank you. All right, how about this is my 4th time? What's your, oh, I love that. Kudos, yeah, what's your favorite number? Okay, I'm 61, good. How about, this is my 4th time. What's a question that works with this answer? Here we go. Is it your first time being in the US? This is my 4th time. Perfect, okay. How many times have you been to Tajikistan? This is my 4th time, right? Oh, I can't wait till I can say that. I look forward to that day. How many times have you been visiting this place? Perfect. Okay, so you get the idea. Same thing. How about I have 5? Yeah, how many times did you go diving? Good. This is my 4th time. Perfect. Beautiful. How many siblings do you have? Yeah, that's exactly right. Good. And then same thing too is I have 5. The next one. I have 5, but no sisters. Oops, excuse me. How many kids do you have? Good. How many times have you been here in our places? Yeah, awesome. Okay, so you get the idea. So working backward, and by the way, students really like this, and it's just fantastic for higher order thinking skills. It just gets it wakes up their brains. My students say that they really enjoy doing this. I constantly asking my students for feedback, especially because I have them making me videos almost every night, just 1 to 2 minute videos talking about different things. And once a week at least, I'm like, okay, what did you like the best? What was the most useful? What do you want more of? And what's missing? All right, now, questions that we can ask ourselves. So this is like notes to self, right? Notes to myself. Well, when we are planning, we're making our lesson plans, we can ask ourselves a whole series of questions. So, for example, this is my checklist that I ask myself whenever I'm making my lesson plans. Is this lesson as active as it can be? You know, am I getting my students up and interacting in real language and real communication? Because if we're just going through exercise A, exercise B, exercise C, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? Everybody's going to go to sleep and nobody's going to walk out that door knowing how to use it at all. How will they learn to use it? By using it, okay? There's just no other way. We have to have them using it. And besides, they love coming to class when they're actively engaged. They love learning English when they're actively engaged. And in fact, if you teach young kids, I don't know who said this. I wish I knew who said it. But an engaged class is a managed class. I'll type that in the chat in a minute. I wish I knew who said that, because it's perfect. It's exactly right. But anyway, so I ask myself, is this lesson as active as it can be? Am I making enough opportunities for students to be the experts? Is it well scaffolded? Meaning, is it broken into doable steps that set the students up for success? You know, we don't go from here to, I don't just give them the ask me slides first and say, okay, guys, go ahead. No, I have to build it step by step by step by step by step. So I check myself. Is this plan, is what I'm planning on doing today, is this scaffolded well enough? How can I add more student agency? Or am I the one talking? Okay. How can I build in teacher silence and make them the experts, right? How can I shut myself up sometimes and just let them be the ones to talk? Is there enough opportunity for personalization and practice? Does this plan recycle material that we've been working on before, right? Previously? And does this plan promote critical thinking skills, and how? So this is my personal checklist that I use, and please feel free to steal it. I'm going to attach in a moment a handout, which I will talk about. Make friends with Bloom's revised taxonomy, okay? The verbs in Bloom's revised text. In fact, let me just go ahead and, oops, that's the wrong one. Okay, let me find that. Oh, I'm in the wrong file. I will do this in just a moment. I will send you this handout. Bloom's taxonomy has just a beautiful, here, in fact, here's what I can do. Take a peek at this. So Bloom's revised taxonomy action verbs. So when we want to work on remembering, okay, look at all these verbs. So we can use these verbs when we do our planning. Okay, all right, I can have my students choose between two different things, or I can have them defining things, select, relate. All of these start getting at higher order thinking skills, right? And then we can move on to understanding and applying, analyzing, evaluating, and creating, right? So all of these verbs we should be incorporating into our planning. And when we do that, then we are able to really boost the level of critical thinking skills for our students. And we go way beyond comprehension questions. Okay, we really shouldn't be focusing so much attention on comprehension questions, because when we have them doing tasks with the material and doing these tasks, we know that they comprehend if they're doing it right. So it assumes comprehension, but it pushes their skills forward to doing something much more complicated and much more challenging and better for both their critical thinking skill, their critical thinking skills and their language development. All right. So, and then I ask myself, is this as is this as active as it can be? And are they doing enough of these verbs? And so I pull out this chart. Or when I'm just feeling sort of stuck and feeling like, oh, I'm so tired, I can't think of anything tonight. And then I pull that out and it's like, oh, yeah, okay, right. I could do this and I could do this and I could do this. So it's just, it helps wake up my brain as the teacher. So I highly recommend you make good friends with Bloom's Revised Taxonomy if you have not already. Now, another question we can ask ourselves is, what professional development can serve me best in the coming year? And how can I be a leader? Or how can I start growing into being a leader? Now, if you are here, you are already on the path to being a leader, right? So ask yourself this question, every few weeks. What do I want to learn more about? What would be a good idea for me to learn about or how to do? Like, for me, technology, right? I'm a digital immigrant, not a digital native, like many people, like many of my students who are all grew up with being digital natives. What holes do I have in my training or my education? So for example, I went to a really great program, a really great university for my graduate school. But the one interesting thing is that they did not do a whole lot with teaching pronunciation. So I kind of felt like I had a hole in my education in that department. So when I go to conferences, or on webinars and everything, I do a lot of stuff. Over the last 25, 30 years, I've gone to everything I can about teaching pronunciation so that now I can fill in that hole and not have that hole in my education. Or what new learning can I take on this year? Or what new leadership can I take on this year? Or how can I help my colleagues or my institution or the field of English language teaching? Okay, so this is a question we should be asking ourselves every single year is, what can I do? What should I be doing this year? Yeah, great. Okay, I love this. Florno, perfect activities for both young and adult students to get fully engaged. How to reduce teachers' control in delivering such activities. Wait, are you asking me that question? How, I would say, set it up really well so that then my goal a lot of times is to set it up with the students, set up the activity, and then put them in, if they were face-to-face, I just put them in groups and have them talking and doing a set task. Plus, here's another thing, another little trick I do. I give them just enough time. I don't give them lots of time. It can always give more time, but I give them barely enough time. So if I have one question I want them to think about, I might say, okay, you've got 20 seconds. Here's the question, go. And then we move on. Now, if they need more time to discuss, I can give them more time, but keeping the pacing going, boom, 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 boom. But then backing up and reviewing and repeating and modeling and lots of example. That's one of the ways I do it. But I think when you are designing your activities at home, do it in such a way that you can step back and out and then just walk around and answer questions and monitor people. It's a little trickier in breakout rooms, but it's working. It's just students might have to wait a little while, but there's the Zoom function where they can raise their hand for help if they need it. And then I bounce around in different Zoom rooms. All right. So now, while we begin taking questions, I'd love it if you would write any idea or practice that you would take away. What's your takeaway from today? What do you want to try, or what have you tried? And you can write that in the chat, and then we have time for questions. Any questions, anybody? In fact, oh wait, yes, I even have this. Any wink, wink, wink questions. So, but go ahead and put your questions in the chat, or you can unmute yourself and ask. Yeah, the Bloom's taxonomy is, I had been teaching for quite a few years before I found out about that. And ooh, it's been one of my best friends is Bloom's revised taxonomy. Okay, so ask me questions, Bloom's taxonomy for plans, answers without questions. Yeah, and all the activities. Great. While we are, while you're putting your questions or getting ready to questions, I will look for these handouts. Oops, move you again. Here we go. Okay, here's Bloom's revised taxonomy coming your way. And also I have another, and a regular handout that I put them in opposite order. Okay, there you go. Oh, okay, let's see. Firdaus says, I'll definitely try. What color are you and why? So much fun. So fun. It's I highly encourage it. Ask me. Oh, good. I'm so glad you like these. I have found them very useful for practicing. Let's see, what else? Description of pictures. Yes. Okay, so the DIE pictures, people call them sometimes. I use those a lot in class. So pictures that don't have any, we don't know what they are. And then DIE stands for describe, interpret, evaluate. So you can use those with your students. Giving students the feeling that they are teaching each other. Yes. And being a teacher to each other perhaps boosts their confidence and make them more responsible for their learning. Yes, I agree 100%. It also helps them learn how to do it. I mean, they can't just do it in one day. So when we make these opportunities over and over again, they start getting very invested. And you know what? I've had a lot of students who other teachers have said, oh, he's such a problem. He has no motivation. He's so lazy. He's so this and that. And then they get into my class and it's like, you're not lazy. You're not, you're an awesome student. Okay. So sometimes it's on us to engage them. Right. But then also remember to make opportunities where we step back and let them take over. Think, pair, share. Yeah, I'm thankful for the inventor too. Thank you, Frank Lyman. Good. Think, pair, share is awesome. I'm so glad that people want to use Ask Me. Now let's see, did I miss anything? Do I use games for, do you use any games for shy students? I use games all the time. Oh my gosh, they get so competitive. They get crazy competitive. But yes, I love games. I'll turn anything into a game, actually, because students really like it. And then what I'll do is I'll teach them a game and then again, step back and say, okay, you know, Ahmed, you're the leader today. You start the game. Once they know how to do it, then I step back. You know, another thing, this is not quite questions and questioning exactly, but I also invite my students if they want to teach a lesson sometimes. I got the idea because I had students ask, and even like low intermediate, and they go ahead and they teach something that we've all, you know, like do a little review and lead an exercise, or say, let's say we're going to do exercise B on page 14. And I say, oh, okay, Maria, why don't you come on up and you be the teacher today? You're Laura today. You come and you lead this for everybody. And they really, now some of them, I would not make anybody do that. They have other opportunities to present in front of the whole class, but any student who wants to can have a chance to teach. Some students get the theme better from asking questions. Exactly. Asking questions is such a good thing. It also sparks their curiosity. It helps teach how to engage their curiosity in this new language, and it helps build confidence. We often think of critical thinking is something challenging or difficult, but yeah, just asking simple questions really can promote critical thinking. So, and especially if we just sort of move beyond comprehension questions, just the comprehension questions are really good for small little things if we just fast checking. But otherwise, let's ask something a little more involved. Let's see. What exercises are best for fostering critical thinking skills by involving peer learning in the class? Are you asking me that question? Okay, so let's see, what are best for fostering critical thinking? I think it depends on what we're doing, but I would say, for example, asking students, I really love let's say we did a reading about something or we listened to a topic. And then I might say, okay, you're about to have dinner with this woman. And what questions do you want to ask this National Geographic photographer? You know, we just listened to a talk about her interview and all of that. So those are some questions, because now they're not, I'm assuming comprehension, because they're asking they asked a question that we know, but now they have to also imagine and take the information that they got from the lecture or from her little talk, and then ask questions about it. So they're really waking up their brains. Do you ask students to make dialogue during lessons? All the time, yes, and role playing, super fun and really engaging. Or sometimes I'll have them role play, like, you are the interviewer from the National Geographic one, and you're the photographer, and now you two have a continued conversation. What's the next part of this conversation after she gave this first part? Okay, the first part's what was in the book. The second part they have to make up on their own. Okay, let's see. Oh, I'm so glad. Thank you. Okay, and there's the link to the quiz. Yes, using pictures is really great for developing critical thinking skills of students. All right, where are we at with time? Do we still have time for more questions? I'm not sure if I missed it.
Yeah, thank you, Laura. So yeah, still the participants can ask more questions. We still have time. I would like just to remind that, dear participants, please use this opportunity. And yes, if you are interested in getting e-certificate from the English Without Borders Network, you can do by completing the quiz link, which we already posted on Facebook and also via Zoom. And as soon as each webinar, you can go through the link and complete the quiz. And if you participate in all the webinars, 7 webinars starting from today till August, including August 26th, and complete the quiz, you can also get this e-certificate. Thank you very much. And we have just one more question. Okay, so Gulnora is asking, my nephew answered to my question. What's your favorite animal? Cat. Why? Because its mouth is so small.
That's so sweet. I love that.
Yeah.
Any other questions or takeaways?
I have a question, like, do you use any movies, to boost questioning in your class? So,
movies, did you say?
Yeah.
I use movies. I use movies all the time. In fact, I had I was trying to write a book to use movies for scenes, and maybe that could be a future webinar. It's a little trickier on Zoom, only because not everybody's bandwidth is enough, and so sometimes they can't really hear the sound as well as I can hear it. So I think it's great, but I use here's something. So I had this last term, we had a crazy situation where I was teaching a class that was speaking listening levels 2 through 7, 15 students of all these different levels. And I thought, okay, how am I going to do this? and so I didn't use a textbook. So I used videos quite a bit, because I thought, what textbook am I going to use? So I found a million different videos online, and I had 4 interns, student teacher interns, who helped me out in the breakout rooms, and they found videos too. And we found some Oh, maybe that could be one I could do. Just sharing different authentic materials. I love using authentic materials with students. They're so motivating with students. So yes, I use movie clips. That's like a whole presentation also, which I would love to share with all of you. Maybe I'll sign up for that if there's a space.
We would definitely, would be happy to host you again. Like, thank you very much. So now we can see lots of word of appreciation to you, Laura. So it's excellent. Like, so many thank yous goes to you. So thank you once again. Let me remind our audience that today we hosted Laura G. Holland, who talked about questions and questioning, classroom practice, optimal discussions, and critical thinking. And using this moment, I would like to convey a big thank you from all the audience who are watching us on Facebook and also via Zoom to you, dear Laura. And it's your second webinar with English Without Borders. And we are looking for many more because it's so interesting and so engaging. Even the participants, they are still keep writing these thank you notes. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Nasiba.